Welcome to the Cincinnati PostCast. I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our sponsor, Streetside Brewery. And boy, howdy, do we have an exciting time over at Streetside. Look, Streetside, if you don't know, and if you don't know, shame on you. I can say that in all honesty. Shame on you. One of the best Cincinnati breweries in town. Awesome place, awesome venue, awesome beers, really, really good stuff. But this weekend, it's a busy time over at Streetside, and you've got to go over and check them out. Not least of which, Pickle Fest. August 30th. They're releasing an all-new pickle beer. Maybe this can be a little divisive in the beer community, but these guys put together some of the best beers. I will be giving this one a shot. Again, that is happening on August 30th, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. It is Pickle Fest over at Streetside. Later on that weekend, you got live music. Tim Snyder on August 31st. Sunday, September 1st, Formula One watch party at 9 a.m. And then Premier League mornings a little bit later. It's Man United versus Liverpool on Sunday, September 1st. It's a good time happening over at Streetside this weekend. Go check them out. And if you do check them out, which again, you should, if you drop this podcast's name when checking out, they'll knock a buck off of each beer you are drinking. Just mention the PostCast at checkout. They give you a little bit of a discount, and you let them know that we sent you their way. So again, thank you to Streetside for sponsoring this episode. Thank you, listener, for using that promo code. And let's get on with the show. And on today's show, well, look, nobody wants to sit around and listen to us whine and complain about that match. Okay. So honestly, there's not a whole lot to talk about with this game, specifically about the game. What we decided instead was we would look at maybe what is wrong with the team right now. We ran through a couple of different plausible issues with the team, and then tried to come up with solutions or identify what the possible solutions would be. We try to be constructive. We try to be helpful. We try to be, dare I say, slightly more positive. Not about the loss. The loss was awful. It was so awful, we tried really hard to not talk about the game. But we try to be a little more positive, looking forward, an optimistic view. It's not even all that optimistic. I don't know why I'm saying it that way. I think this is a better approach for a post-loss podcast. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think we solved some problems on this one. Then in part 2, we all needed a vibe shakeup. We all changed it up. So it is a couple of Patreon questions that we went back with in the 11 out of the 18. It's a good time. Put it all together. You got yourselves a refreshing postcast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, I am joined by two gentlemen who had probably a lovely weekend otherwise. Joined by the Chief, joined by Grayson. Chief, how was your weekend otherwise?
It was great.
Yeah.
We went to 2 different cookouts over the weekend, really getting into that late summer vibe.
Nice.
Very much enjoying that. Spent some time at the local watering hole around the corner from the house. Once the soccer part was done, it was a lovely evening. I got back to betting on college football. I won a little bit of money, chasing some cash on the late night Hawaii game. Always a great cap to the weekend when you're throwing money down on a game that's kicking off at 11:59. That's just, that is just good, clean family fun right there. Gamble responsibly, but it was really, really good.
Nice. No, that's really good to hear. Grayson, how was your weekend?
It was good. Really, beginning to end, consistently straight through.
Oh, good.
There were a lot of occasions this weekend, so I was like kind of bopping from place to place, celebrating various things. And it did interfere with my ability to watch the game right when it started.
Oh, good.
So as far as you're concerned.
And so I had just got a glass of kava placed in front of me, and I pulled up my phone to look at the score, and it was 6 minutes in, 2-0 Miami. And I was just out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. The real problem is that the first of the two social gatherings that I was present at was one where I was known as the FC guy.
Oh no.
At the thing. And so I was not the only person following the game. My two of my other friends were watching on their phones, but I was the one that's the FC guy that everybody knew. Right. So throughout the night, people would be coming up. Oh, is FC Cincinnati playing? How are they doing? Oh. Bad. Next person comes up. Oh, how's the FC doing? Bad. Somebody circles back. Anything new in the game? No, it still sucks. And I wish people would stop asking me about this right now.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
I had all my, not all mine, but most of my cousins over, including the Post's Damon Gumbert. He is my cousin. And yeah, we had a great old time. Everybody brought like some snacks, beers. It was a good time. We were all set up in the basement, and just immediately, it wasn't the evening we thought we were all signing up for.
Right. It's one of those ones where it's like immediately, is anything else on? Can we flip back and forth between something else? Which is really hard to do on Apple TV. That is one of the downsides of the Apple TV only plan. Is that you're kind of pot committed to watching Apple TV while the match is on. It's not like you can flip over to like, oh, there's a college game on. I'll watch a little bit of that. And then maybe we'll come back if my phone buzzes and it says that we score or something like that.
So you say that, but I have some setting turned on, which I really enjoy on my Apple TV, which is it tells me about like exciting moments in sports, just like when I'm watching other stuff. So I can just click a button and jump over. And it'll be like, hey, so-and-so's got a no-hitter going into the 7th inning. Click here to watch now. It's like, oh yeah, that's better than the movie I'm watching now. Let's go see this.
This is so much better than watching this team play right now. Like I'll flip over to literally anything else. Like,
and that's what happened at around halftime. It was like Seattle, Minnesota, 2-2 going into the second half. I looked around, I was like, should we?
So that's funny. As I was moving from one destination to another, we walked past an establishment, and I don't know if I should say the establishment's name. But
not if they're not paying us a sponsorship deal or not.
Or paying their license fee for viewing a game.
I can tell you they're not paying the license fee for viewing a game, because I walked by and the first thing I saw was that there was a soccer game. The second thing I saw was the score was 3-2. And my first thought is, ooh, what happened? And nope, it's the Minnesota-Seattle game, which is the one that was not on Apple TV. And so like I walked by maybe 3 places with visible TVs, and not a single one had the FC game on. So that was pretty funny.
Out of sight, out of mind.
What should have been one of the biggest sporting events in this city's summer just kind of fell on deaf ears. Like the city didn't really seem to care about this. According to Roman Celentano, it's not clear the team cared about it. But,
right? That was a tough quote. It is a bigger problem with the Apple TV deal, and this is probably off-season fodder. But yeah, it is very much, there is an out-of-sight, out-of-mind thing for FC Cincinnati. If you are not already a fan of this team, and you are not someone that would be inclined to spend the $80 for the MLS deal, it's a great deal. Like, objectively, it is a great deal. But if you're the type of person that is, I'll watch if it's on, you just like, there were people that I was talking to at this party as FC guy who hadn't watched a single game all year because they don't have Apple TV. They were casually interested. And if you were to tell them that, oh, there's a big FC Cincinnati match tonight, it's Miami, it's Cincinnati, they'll all know, most people know, oh, that's the Lionel Messi team. Is Messi playing? Well, no, but it's still a big game. Yeah, there would be a casual turnout. You'd probably get most of the bars in Cincinnati turning the match on. And instead, they've made the product so hard to find casually that, not to do the drill bit of gotta hand it to ISIS, but you do almost have to agree a little bit with some of the people that were critical of this deal, in that there is a significant downside to this particular type of a paywall. And that, you're going to walk by tons of bars in the city that are playing the free game that they don't need the Apple TV login for, that's available on their cable package, versus signing up and having the internet streaming deal.
I don't think you have to agree with those people, because those people raised that criticism kind of like vociferously and repeatedly. Whereas like, I think it's probably true. I think MLS probably thought about it before they signed the Apple deal.
They definitely did. It was just too much money to turn down.
I like to think that they didn't. That's really funny.
So it'd be really funny if they were like, "Oh fuck, we knew we weren't forgetting something with this deal. How are bars going to show these games? How are regular people going to find this?
Whose job was this to think about this?"
And like being available on TV that you could just flip across didn't seem to be doing anything for them. Right?
It wasn't working.
You can acknowledge that like that's a thing that you can't do anymore, and that some places that aren't going to be like soccer destination bars aren't going to pay for the Apple TV deal unless their patrons start demanding it.
Right.
But like, I don't think you have to hand it to anybody, because I don't know, like it's like nothing has been proven by that observation. Like it doesn't prove anything about the Apple deal or not. I mean, you'd have to find something about the Apple deal that people thought would be the case that turned out not to be true. And really the most important thing was Apple committing $250 million a year. Right.
Right.
And
but
that seems to have turned out to be true. Like, I don't know. Apple hasn't like stopped paying the money.
Well, there was this idea that like Apple had a early out clause that they could pull.
Maybe we'll find out.
Maybe they do it this offseason, but we've got about 2 years now, and a lot of that chatter in particular has died down.
I remember going into the DNC, I saw a bunch of tweets on the For You page that were like, they're going to swap out Kamala. It's going to be. She was just a placeholder. They're going to replace her this week. You just watch, and just like, maybe.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I do think Cincinnati was in a weird spot for that deal, because the deal probably makes a lot more sense for other places.
Mm-hmm.
And in Cincinnati, there's enough momentum around this team, or there has been, that I think that like if you go to places like, the MLS 1.0 market, you walk around Chicago, I bet that there were not a lot of bars that had the Fire game on, even when they were on non-Apple TV. But when this team was first year MLS, before the wheels fell off, and even before the Apple TV deal started, most any given bar was playing the FC Cincinnati game. You didn't have to ask hard to get the game on at most places when they were, just because the casual fan interest was so high. But it is kind of weird. We didn't go into tonight and start anticipating talking about this, but like this should have been one of the biggest sporting events, non-Bengals sporting events this city was going to have. All summer. God knows the Reds haven't provided a lot of competitive moments this year. Other than, I'm struggling to think what else since the Bengals left would be even comparable to this.
Well, I'll tell you, it's not it's got nothing to if there's lack of interest or lack of penetration, maybe is better. It does have nothing to do with the form of the team. Like, it's just, I think sometimes if you're a fan of the team, you're like really a fan of the team, and you don't realize how limited the penetration still is. In certain segments.
Yeah. Well, even thinking back to the first Miami match here in town, sure, Messi didn't travel, and I'm sure that played some role. If he's here, I think it's a bigger deal to like the local news media and whatever. But yeah, like this was 1 versus 2 in the East and 1 versus 3 in the Supporters Shield. And sure, it was a rough run of games leading up to this, but like Miami hadn't immediately set the world on fire going into this either. They also crashed out of the Leagues Cup at roughly the same spot we did. I don't know. Like this should have been a big deal. Like if the Bengals are 10-1 and playing like a 10-1 Colts team at this point of the season, it's like it's a big deal. I don't know.
Yeah. There's reporters going on the road to follow it. It's I don't know. It's like that's a meta thing for MLS is like, what does this league do to create more interest or draw more eyeballs to these regular season matchups or even playoff matchups that are compelling otherwise? This is a compelling game between 2 of the preeminent teams in this league over the last couple of years. And I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those things where the league needs to incentivize TV stations to go and cover these things. Like, you know, hey, if you have a reporter from Cincinnati down at this game, we will guarantee you this type of access, and this type of access, and stop behaving so much like the NFL, where we're doing you a favor just by allowing you to be here to watch this magnificent product. Right. And I don't know. Fuck, Tom Brady was at the game. So obviously somebody cares.
I think sometimes I don't know, maybe the financial situation is more precarious than anybody knows. And they just really like need every cent. So they feel like, yeah, we could like do some type of giveaway, a promotional thing to bars in league markets, but we'd rather have some limited number of them actually pay for the license. And we'll just give up those others because we need the money. Right. Or like league wide, they have to raise tickets 15 to 25% for every team because they just need the money. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it'd be really funny to offer like the first league license sold in that city is $1. And the second one is $2. And the third one is $3. And it goes up to 100 and caps out. But like, if you're the 5th bar to sign up, you're like, hell yeah, this is great.
$5, hell yeah.
But yeah, or even if you get it for $80, you're like, hey, you know what? That's $20 off. That's somebody's whole tab. We don't have to worry about covering this thing. Hey, not a bad deal for us. And hey, 79 other bars signed up for this. I feel like we don't want to be left in the dust. I don't know, something to drive momentum and interest.
I just for a league like this, I feel like they should just be giving away the license to bars. And I understand that the whole argument of, well, if you can just go to any bar and watch the game, then what's the incentive to sign up for it on your own? I don't know. Who gives a shit? Like
somebody pays for cable eventually. You can watch every NFL game for free, quote unquote, if you go to a restaurant. Every single one of them. Yeah. People still pay for NFL Sunday Ticket. People still buy a cable package. People still pay for Peacock or CBS Plus or whatever, Paramount Plus. Yeah, I don't know. That's a dumb argument. So yeah, to your point, absolutely give it away for free to the bars.
Yeah. Anything to avoid talking about this game.
We're doing a pretty good job of it so far.
Yeah.
Did you watch Rebel Moon Part 2 yet?
I have not. No, that would have been a perfect night for that tonight, wouldn't it?
Wow, yeah. It really would.
It would have been. Certainly, Rebel Moon Part 2 was a more enjoyable couple hours than well, I didn't watch the whole Miami game, but more than some of the recent games.
Here's what we really need to do. I'll watch it this week, and if we lose to Montreal next week, we're gonna have the episode description written up as recap of Montreal. This, but then it's just Rebel Moon. There's nothing else. Like, if we go to 5 losses in a row in league play, losing to Montreal,
like, of all teams,
you're in the darkest timeline officially, and we may as well just start doing movie reviews at that point.
So I guess we usually recap. I guess we usually preview the upcoming game on Wednesday. So
Yeah,
that is the move. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was trying to think. I've spent all day thinking about this.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, I know. No, just we could sit here for the next hour and a half and just talk about this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. And I don't know, like, do people want to hear that? Is it one of those things where people listen and it's just like, yes, I can rage as I listen, and there are people who is angry about this as I am. I wasn't even mad last night. I don't even want to say I was vindicated with my takes that this team is bad. It's just, I don't want to be relentlessly negative about this team. I don't want to go back to that point I was at when Gerard and Yop were here, where I hated watching this team. Like, I was angry at what they were doing to this team because it's not the same. It's a different situation entirely. But I do want to talk about, like, what is wrong with this team and what's the fix? Because I think even you, Kevin, who was the most optimistic of the three of us.
Yes.
I think at this point you have to admit something isn't working on this team. And we can debate the direness or the fixability of what that is. But this is a broken FC Cincinnati team right now, at least temporarily. So
I do want to take a moment, and I don't want to dwell on it because it's useless.
Okay.
To dwell on it or to say all the same stuff over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But I do want to just acknowledge that we were right on the live show. Basically everything that we said was right. I just want to acknowledge it, but recapping over it is a totally useless exercise. So now let's move on and figure out what is going on the rest of the year.
So I guess where I want to start with this, what's up with Lucho?
Okay.
Because that seems like the most obvious, like, top line thing about where this team isn't working right now is that we had multiple weeks off, or at least 10 days. What was it, about 10 days off for the Leagues Cup?
Yeah.
10 days off. He hasn't played consistently in about a month in terms of how long it's been since he's gone 90. I'd say it's about a month since he's gone 90.
That feels
maybe longer.
Right.
Whatever is going on, and we've heard a bunch of different things. I've heard bone bruise on his feet. I've heard that he doesn't have toenails on either of his two big toes. I don't know. They haven't come out and said what the problem is with Lucho. But it's got to be a major concern at this point that they've had tons of time off in terms of cadence of games and in terms of the amount of time he spent on the field. And allegedly he trained this week, was described as sprightly, and was not available to start this game. And when he came off the bench, he did not look right the entire game. He looked tentative. He looked like he was avoiding the ball, and he looked like a guy that was afraid to hurt or to be in pain again, or that every collision he was trying to avoid. What's going on here, and how concerned should we be?
Just real quick, Chief, depending on how much of a stickler you want to be about 90 minutes, he was subbed out in the 89th minute against Charlotte. He did go the full 90 against Inter Miami when we beat them 6-1. That was back on July 6th. His yellow card accumulation suspension will keep him out versus Montreal. There's an international break, and then there is a Columbus Crew match on September 14th. It will be 2 months between his last going 90 and the Crew match, which TBD if he goes the full 90. But just wanted to put that fully in context. That Charlotte match was July 13th, so even if you use that date, it's still 2 months. Woof.
Speaking of Crew, just scored the go-ahead goal in the second minute of stoppage time in the Leagues Cup final here. Looks like they may be looking at it, but
I'd gotten my hopes up that had gone to 90 minutes tied. Oh boy. Do they go immediately to penalties in Leagues Cup, I assume? So there's no extra time
for the final?
Yeah.
I think so,
yeah.
straight, I think
straight
okay.
penalty.
Anyway, to answer your question, Chief, unfortunately, what I think is happening is I suspect Lucho has a similar injury to Messi, which is that like his feet and ankles are swollen and sore from just regular constant abuse. He is constantly being stepped on and tackled, not unlike Messi. And we saw the images of the Copa America of Messi's inflamed ankles. According to Pat Brennan, he has said, I think publicly in tweets, that like he has seen Lucho's ankles after games, and he's been confused as to how Lucho continues to play every week in and week out. My guess is it is an accumulated fatigue issue and just a continuous use injury for Lucho that needs time. But at the same time, Lucho is so desperate to get back on the field that it's never allowed to fully heal. And we're in a weird, awkward spot where like it's probably good he has to miss Montreal if you're looking for a more fully fit Lucho against Columbus. That's
Columbus
my guess.
It's 3-1 now.
Way.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Fuck.
I know all the listeners know this, but I do want to. I do want you to experience it with us again.
Cool. Oh Jesus. 3-1.
I hate this. I hate this so much.
Jason Russell Rowe.
All right, focus, Chief. All right.
That's my guess as to what's going on with Lucho.
If that's the case, what I want to know, and I think I said this online today, what I want to know from the coaching staff, what's the timeline?
Yes.
And is there a consideration of just shutting him down if that amount of time is less than October when the playoffs start? Because apparently this team is useless without him. And apparently this team is useless with him if he's not at least 75 to 80%, because he didn't look anywhere near that on Saturday. Am I crazy to say, look, Shields dead, just get him right? And if he can't get right by the end of this year, what are we doing anyway here?
I think you were crazy before the Miami game. I think having lost to Miami, that has to be how it is viewed. It is shut down Lucho until the playoffs, if that is the only way you can guarantee a fully healthy Lucho for the playoffs.
Grayson?
I mean, yeah, it's the only thing worth doing right now is having him healthy for the playoffs. I mean, hopefully 3 weeks off or whatever is enough to get him, back to more than just a 45-minute halftime sub. But I don't say this to be a pessimist, but I'm ready to throw that crew game away. Like I'm not willing to overextend Lucho just to beat the crew or give us a better shot of beating the crew in the next match. That game doesn't matter to the season.
Let me ask you this though. Because I get the impression with both of you that MLS Cup is an uphill battle that is fading by the hour, given what we just saw.
No, MLS Cup is the same spot as it was a week before.
See, this is what I was thinking. If you were thinking that MLS Cup is further and further out of reach, then the Columbus game is your MLS Cup final.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It never will be.
It never will be until it never will be until we're at least on equal footing with them in terms of trophies. And apparently we just fell another one behind. So the ledger and the hill to climb to get onto equal footing with Columbus just got higher tonight. And so, no, it's like the regular season matchups with them, I'm unconcerned with them until we start putting stars over the badge. And to be clear, I want to clear this up right now. This team still very much everything to play for this year in terms of MLS Cup. All this team needs to do, when I say all this team needs to do, all this team needs to do is get its shit figured out and get healthy by the playoffs starting. Yeah. Once that happens, you're what, 5 wins away from winning MLS Cup or making MLS Cup?
Yep. From winning MLS Cup.
Yeah. That's doable. You don't have to go in as the 1 seed. You don't even have to go in as one of the top 4 seeds. You can, as long as your act plays on the road, you're good as long as you can win those games. And this team, when it's been healthy, has been a very, very good road team.
Yeah.
This team, when healthy, has shown the ability to play lockdown defense. Get right. So like whatever we're talking about here, the next couple of weeks could be an absolute slog. It's fine. Just if this team can get itself together in October and November, no one will remember this part of the season. Absolutely no one. You win MLS Cup, no one's talking about how you got there during the regular season.
It's true. So, yeah, Chief, I think Lucho's health is a huge determiner of how this team can do, especially in knockout tournaments, right? In a knockout situation. We've seen this team in last year and this year be successful, and Lucha is not on the field. It's a very real possibility. It's a thing that can happen. We saw it against, maybe it doesn't count for much, but we saw it against New York City in the Leagues Cup. We saw it last year against Philly. That this team is able to put together really good performances without Lucho Acosta, which I think goes to the second point here that needs to be addressed and needs to be sorted out over these next 8 games, which is, what is our identity and what is everybody's first choice position? This is something that everybody has said things like, Noonan's doing his best with the roster he's been given and Noonan's trying to figure things out. Okay, you've gotten 85% of a season in. You know what you have right now. You know what Joe Aquini's resume is. So we don't need to pretend like we're trying to figure out where he slots in. We know what he is as a player. We need to be running out virtually unchanged lineups with clear identities, clear patterns of play, and guys in positions. And if that's the suboptimal position, but it makes everything else work, so be it. Orishano's better attacking on the right side. Everything is better for him if he's on the right side, but the team is better if he's on the left. Put him on the left. He needs to get comfortable with it over there. Who's our striker partner? Or, who's our striker situation? Is it 1 striker up top? Is it 2 up top? You've seen enough. Pick an identity. What are we good at? And roll with it. I'll tell you one thing. It's not 1 striker. That hasn't worked. It worked 1 time. It doesn't work. You need to have a striker duo up top. You need to figure out who that is and roll them out every single game. We can lose them all. That's fine. We need to be building that chemistry. And you know what you have at this point.
Chemistry's so overrated. These guys are professionals. They're professionals.
Agreed. But I want them playing together regularly. We have not had the same striker group, whether it be 1 person or 2, run out since we were running out Dotto and Kelsey back to back. And by the way, when we did that for like 3 or 4 games in a row, we won all of them. It's like it convinced Noonan that Bupenza shouldn't even be on the bench. It was that effective. And then we abandoned that. I don't know why. We just abandoned it. And we've been in this weird wilderness ever since. I'm not saying go back to that. It wasn't a dream setup, but it was working. And they were figuring shit out. I don't know. That's how I see it. This team needs an identity, and right now I don't know what it is.
So I think that's related to another sort of question that I have. And I'm open to taking the criticism on this because I want to know where my thoughts are, where your thoughts are on this. And that's that I'm going to preface this by saying I think Pat Noonan is a very good coach. I think Pat Noonan was a deserved winner of Coach of the Year last year. I am concerned that he doesn't have another club in the bag in terms of you see other coaches in this league manage to figure things out and adapt to situations to produce the best possible result with not the most optimum level of players. And I keep waiting for Pat Noonan to do something that shows that this team can play without Lucho Acosta or not be so Lucho Acosta dependent. And it's just not there. I'm waiting for him to figure something out. And it goes beyond that too. It's like last night they get a red card. Miami picks up a second yellow in like the 40th minute?
Yeah.
Like first half. And there's really no adjustment made to be playing with the man advantage. They look completely ineffective playing with the man advantage. I think they created maybe one or two decent scoring opportunities. And the rest of the time, it was just a lot of people standing around waiting for somebody else to do something, which was the hallmark of Jaap Stam. A lot of people passing around ineffectively in the offensive half, but never getting the ball into dangerous positions in the 18 or in the attacking third. And I just keep waiting. And I know this is like, it's funny to blame Noonan for this since he wasn't the head coach last night.
I was going to say, there's a little bit of that, right?
But also it's like on this 4-game run, I'm waiting for Noonan to have answers. And it just doesn't seem like tactically this team is coming up with creative answers to solve the questions that are being asked.
To be also annoying, just real quick, he was also suspended for another one of those 4 games.
But he's still the guy that's like making the game plan.
I agree. And I don't know exactly what is being communicated during games or what the pre-arranged lineup is, but it is possible Tom Kinnear's not that good either. So
I know that you know, we've all agreed and people keep saying that, you know, the team is going to go as far as Lucho takes them. And Lucha is the driver of the team and everything. But like, you would think at some point they would just kind of accidentally score a goal without Lucha. I mean, we if you look at this 4-game MLS losing streak, right? 3 of the teams that we lost to didn't have a Lucho. You know, like Charlotte doesn't have a Lucho. Yeah. New York Red Bull has guys named like Kyle Duncan scoring on us. Chicago certainly doesn't have a Lucho. They told their desired, the guy who was supposed to be their Lucho, they just said when he went over to the Euros, they just said, yeah, you can stay there. That's fine.
That works out for everybody.
So I don't know. It just feels like there are still good players on the team that they could do something. And like, it's not going to be as necessarily as pretty of soccer as you can get with Lucho. And you're not going to get all of the things opened up that he is able to open up for you. But, you know, take yesterday, for example, right? We start off with Kelsey up top as the lone striker. And then I think we had like the inverted wing backs, right? We had Kubo at left wing back and Orishano at right wing back. So you're not getting any width from the wing back spots. And again, I didn't watch the first half of the game, but I'm going to assume that there weren't a ton of like dangerous crosses into Kelsey.
There were not.
No.
And then so I wonder if you have this planned sub for Lucho to come in and you're bringing in Murphy as well, and then you're maybe you can have Kelsey in with traditional wingbacks, or go back to just 2 strikers and traditional wingbacks and bring back the Cincinnati play.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's working well earlier in the year.
And So I think they get. I'd be curious what the record is with the sword formation. I do think they've probably fallen a little too in love with Orishano as a right-sided inverted attacking player. It doesn't seem to have done a lot for them with Lucho off the field.
I'll say it hasn't done a lot for Orishano. He was selected as an all-star as a left wing back. Like, he was doing really good there, was scoring there. And I know he prefers to be on the right. They moved him to the right. And but he stopped scoring goals.
If you have like some sustained possession and you're attacking, you could let him drift over a little bit.
Right.
And then cut back.
Or like swap with Lucho if Lucho's playing, right? Like Lucho drifts out wide and have him cut inside.
But when you're defending, having him as a left-sided outlet lets him dart up the side. I mean, we've seen him do some great, left side dribbles up the field and find some space and bring the ball in centrally. And then I just don't. This team needs to sign a free agent center back. I think like that is the one thing that I don't think that's other than Lucho's injury.
Yeah.
Even if Lucho comes back 100% at some point, I'm skeptical that the team has it without another center back, because we can't keep putting DeAndre Yedlin.
No,
well, you don't have to.
There.
That's the problem.
But why they do it?
Because if you put
that was weird.
If you put Luca Orishano over as the right side wingback, that's DeAndre Yedlin's spot. DeAndre Yedlin isn't going to play on the left. They don't want to play DeAndre Yedlin on the left. So once you commit to playing Luca on the right in DeAndre Yedlin's position, then you have to have someone on the left. That's been Yamil Assad. Yamil Assad is hurt. So your choice then is playing Halsey inverted, and he apparently can't do that. So you put Yuya Kubo over there, and then your choice is, do you keep DeAndre Yedlin off the field or not? But there's no other place for Yedlin to play if he's not playing center back. So by playing Orishano in that position, maybe he prefers to play there, but that's really the only position that DeAndre Yedlin plays at a above average, or it's his only good position. He is just okay as a center back. You don't have to play him there. That could have been Ian Murphy, as best anyone has said. And until we hear otherwise, Ian Murphy was healthy on the bench because they decided they wanted to play Luca Orishano in Yedlin's spot and didn't want Yedlin off the field for this.
We actually have something about this. This comes from Laurel, her story about the match. It's just one line, but boy, there's a trillion things you could read into this. I'll just read it as it's written. Kinnear said he wanted to look at Yedlin in the backline with Chidozie Awazim and Miles Robinson. We just got curious. We got curious. We were just wonder what this would look like. It's insane. If that is actually what happened, that Kinnear pulled rank, even though he shouldn't have rank here, and just decided.
I have to assume that's a coaching staff decision, that's Noonan and the entire coaching staff making that assessment. But that's absurd. I'm sorry. I think DeAndre Yedlin is a great player. He is a great He's a great right. He is a great right back or a good wing back. Playing him at center back is crazy. When you have Ian Murphy healthy, who has shown in this league himself to be a very good center back.
Yeah.
And Murphy came in at halftime, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
They moved Yedlin back. They moved Yedlin to the right.
Yeah,
and Orishano out to the left again. So
and then Kubo back up top.
And funny enough, once Orishano goes out left, we look a lot more dangerous because he's able to advance the ball, and it's a whole thing. Yeah. But to Grayson's point, though, we looked at Cheeto's signing as saying, yeah, you had to do that. You lost Matt Miazga. You signed him. We never replaced Nick Hagland. And I'm not saying the season was going to live or die by Nick Hagland's health, but we lost our fourth center back in a 3-man back line. Like, we dig deeper than we ever needed to with any slight variation, change, suspension, injury than we were ever expecting. So, yeah, I think a free agent center back is almost mandatory if there are playoff hopes. Again, if the expectation is that Lucho will be healthy for the playoffs.
They just need to play the center backs they have. Like,
that would help.
Like, it would be one thing if one of them got hurt. Yeah, if one of them gets hurt or another one gets hurt, this team's screwed. Yeah. But like, even if you bring in a free agent center back, it's still the quality of player you're probably bringing in on the salary budget charge. You're just talking about someone, maybe this person is better than Kip Keller is all you're going to be able to get at this point.
Which
might not take much, as it turns out.
Give me the Yamil Assad of center backs, please.
Right. But like, you just got to play the guys that are your guys. Like, and that goes back to your point, Kevin, where I think chemistry is overrated. But by the same token, there is, it's almost like you're trying to build a team that has the maximum number of total like ability points. And Luca Orishano may make himself a 10 out of 10 at right wing back, but the penalty for doing so is dropping a bunch of other slots down to 6s.
Right.
Where you can put him in competently as an 8 on the left-hand side and up a lot of other positions to 8. Yeah. And I don't know what that does for the dressing room, whether or not you're pissing people off because they're playing out of position. But like, I don't know. Is anyone right now clamoring to make Luca a DP after the last like month and a half? He's not going to be anyway. He's not going to be anyway.
So, yeah, I mean, so if you were to set up a best 11 without Lucho, like a starting 11 without Lucho.
Yeah.
It would be, I mean, for me, it would be obvious, Celentano, and then well,
it's still Celentano,
but still Celentano. And then left to right in the back, it's Orshano, Murphy, Awaziam, Robinson, Yedlin, Obi Buka, Kubo at the top of the midfield, and then Dotto and Kelsey as the two.
I think you go Dotto
as the two strikers.
You go Dotto in the midfield and Kelsey Kubo as the two strikers. I think that if you are planning, if the theoretical lineup
that seems fine,
you have to. I'll give Kevin his due on this one. That if you're going to go for consistency, you got to pick whoever the fake Lucho is and just let that person be fake Lucho. And maybe not play so much like he's supposed to be Lucho. Like maybe try and find other ways to play that doesn't emphasize that role so much and make it so load bearing. But I think you give that to Dotto and you just have to hope that he's young and he's still in the upswing of his development curve. And there's more growing that he can do in that position. But yeah, I think that's what you got to do. I think that's the formation that needs to be going forward. That was what this team was playing when they were.
Or honestly, Santos Kelsey.
I don't hate that either.
Based on form.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't hate Santos Kubo, if we're being honest. Like the problem is unless you're going to commit to feeding crosses into Kelsey, I don't know a lot about what Kelsey brings to this team. Like his hold-up play is good, but you can't play striker just based on hold-up play. You've got to at least try to get the guy service. And there's been no attempt to try and get crosses in, which is tough. And the other thing, too, is that there's nobody on this team right now that's worth a damn on set pieces. Like, I started laughing last night. There was one set piece that Luca took where it was from the right-hand side. He swings a ball that just completely misses the 6-yard box and goes out of bounds on the fly. Yep. And it's like, okay, you have just wasted a set piece opportunity here. You would have been better off like doing a short corner and kicking the ball out of bounds, because at least then they would have been pinned in the corner for a throw in and not had the ability to waste time on the clock and let Callender just boot the ball downfield.
FC Cincinnati target Drake Callender.
Well, come on.
Sure.
As a joke.
Me when I spread misinformation.
Yeah, right. That was 100% a joke. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And Grace, I'm glad you brought up that exercise because, like, that's what I was thinking as well, which is like for the next 8 games, you need to basically build the best team you can without Lucho. And then in the playoffs go, okay, we've built a good team, ideally, hopefully. We built a good team over the last 2 months without Lucho. Now we have a healthy league MVP. Where do we utilize him in this team now? I think that is way better than just sitting around waiting for him to do stuff, sitting around waiting for him to be healthy, deciding if we care about games based on his health. Like, I don't know exactly
also,
what's going on, but that's what it feels like.
But also, like, sitting around and just feeling sorry for ourselves that Lucha's not fully healthy is it's worse. It's almost worse than being black-pilled on the rest of the season entirely. Because
right.
Because these guys are professionals. Like, these are professional players who have scored goals, have played well before, have played in big leagues. You know, a lot of them make a lot of money. Some of them
have hopes of making more money in the future.
Were 7-figure plus transfer fees for either FC Cincinnati or other teams. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that they should not experience any drop off, but there really is no excuse for going from top of the table to, like, maybe the worst team in the league based on form. Just because you lose, because you lose one guy.
One guy. Yeah.
And I don't care who it is. Like, Miami lost Messi, and they're staying
still pretty good.
They're staying at the top. And, you know, Red Bull lost Forsberg, and they beat us 3-1 last time we played them.
They've been a pretty good team, all things being equal, that Red Bull.
Like, there's no reason that we should just assume that the team should just keep losing games because Lucho's not healthy. Right? I mean, going into the playoffs is a different thing, but I mean, like, the rest of the 8 games, like, they really have no excuse not to be competitive, at least down the stretch.
Right. And it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to be completely flat, non-competitive, virtually non-threatening. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was the problem with all these games is that this team, at least in league play, now there was that stretch in that New York game where this team looked like a completely different team. And admittedly, we've talked about it. Game didn't matter. Both teams were through. But in the last 4 league games that they've lost, this team has looked utterly ineffective, just utterly non-threatening. You can count on one hand the number of good goal scoring opportunities. It'd be one thing if they were just, you know, hitting the woodwork, like incredible saves by goalkeepers. And it was just the circumstances of circumstances that was keeping them out. They looked like they were good for maybe a goal last night. It didn't feel like they were just, we're just missing these things. It didn't feel like that. And it hasn't felt like that for a really long time. What do you make of this quote? This was in Carter's article. I think it was Carter's article about this, about the game last night.
If it's from Roman, it was from Pat.
Okay, it was from Pat. I want to make sure I was sourcing this rightly. It was from Pat Brennan, friend of the podcast. This is the quote from FC Cincinnati goalkeeper Roman Celentano. "It was shocking. It just seemed like we didn't really want it at any point, really. We just came out flat, got punished right away, let them have another goal. And then I feel like the red card should be helping us out, but I feel like we just didn't pick up any urgency as the game went on. You wish you could just take it back. You just wish you could start it off the right way."
Oh,
that's a tough quote.
It's, I think that there's no excuses for that. I mean, Roman's not going to say it if he doesn't if he doesn't believe it, right? Like this isn't like just a couple of platitudes. This is a pretty serious thing to throw out. And 9 games left in the year, you can't have guys in the team. You can't have a performance where the players see it that way, right? Like, and it's on kind of everybody.
Yeah.
That a performance like that is even possible. You know, when with the Bupenza thing this year, okay. Every time Tom Bogert talked about the impending departure and after the departure, whoever was talking to him, we don't know who his sources were, but whoever was providing him information about the thinking behind the Bupenza deal with the character stuff that he brought with him, the thinking was they have such a good locker room that they can roll the dice on a question mark and then just hope that their culture is strong enough to get the best out of him. Right. But a quote like that is not something you get from a team that has a strong culture.
Yeah.
Like teams with strong cultures. This is going to sound a little, maybe a little sports talk radio, but teams with strong cultures just don't have performances like that at this point in the season.
So here's my question then. And I'm going to, look, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. We've all been there when it comes to in the wake of something, they just got their ass kicked. They got their ass kicked pretty thoroughly. They were up a man and looked ineffective. I will forgive any player for walking off the field and really speaking more with his heart than what maybe you would have said otherwise if you were in a more rational frame of mind or if you were giving the interview the next day or a couple of hours later.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to choose to believe is here. But to that point, what is the difference between this team? Kevin, you've brought this up before on the show. This same team smoked Miami 6-2?
6-1.
6-1. And okay, if we're going to be all sports talk radio and talk culture, what happened to the culture between that Miami game and this game right here? I can't believe that something degraded it. Like, was Aaron Bupenza secretly the biggest vibes guy in the world?
I was just
and
about
we just
to
didn't
say,
know about it?
The biggest change is that Aaron Bupenza isn't a part of this team anymore. And Grayson, to your point, what kills me about Roman's quote, like, you can't have this, is that, like, it's against Miami. Like, I could almost see it if you, like, immediately get your ass kicked by, like, I don't know, FC Dallas, and it's 98 degrees out, and you're just like, oh my God, fuck this. We'll just get them next week. But it's Miami. It was the same temperature in Miami as it was in Cincinnati, so I don't even want to hear that. It's a marquee game. It's a big game in the standings within the Shield race. It's a marquee game given the players on the opposing team and the celebrities in the crowd, right? Like, this should be a game that you care about, even if you're locked on to the wooden spoon. If you've already clinched it, you should care about this Miami game more than what this team cared about. Like, there's so much more going into it. It's insane. And it does speak to a little bit of Miazga, Haglund, Lucho, Noonan. These are the leaders of this soccer team, and none of them were there for the first half of this game. And that's a problem, absolutely, but somebody else needs to step up. Somebody else needs to grab this culture by the throat and get something out of it, because this is a poison that will continue to infect the rest of the team for the rest of the season. And then you're riding the worst vibes possible into what is probably a really shitty first round matchup against New York Red Bulls or Miami or Columbus, depending on where the seeding shakes out.
I have a tough time believing that, like, these players are still around the team. Yeah. Like, Miazga's back.
Yeah.
Haglund's back. Lucho is on the active roster. Noonan was there at the stadium. He, by all accounts, is able to still give the pregame talk and still be around the team right up until kickoff. Yeah. I don't know. This club had a swagger to it a couple, like 2 months ago. It just disappeared overnight. And it doesn't exactly coincide with the Miazga injury. I mean, that wasn't great, but it wasn't like everything just sort of like everybody just died at that moment. I don't know. I just something feels off, and I don't know what that is exactly.
So Carter had a quote, I think before the game, from Yedlin, about Awaziem, about how, you know, he brought some vocal leadership to the defense that they'd been missing.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a little, I know Miazga, right, is very much like a defensive captain.
Yeah.
Very, very active and vocal all the time. It's a little alarming though that like nobody else thought that might be their job. like not our U.S. men's national team center back, not our, you know, captain or our vice captain,
right?
When Lucho is not the captain. But I will say that late in the game, it did seem like, and I know, you know, the defense gave up the goals early, but it seemed like Awaziem was being asked to do quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to shit on a guy who's not like a vocal leader. Like there's a lot of dudes that have been great athletes that were just no leadership skills whatsoever. It is a fundamentally different thing than being athletic and good at your skill than to also be someone who is a leader. And, you know, it's for that reason why a lot of players that have been asked to step up and be leaders, they've failed because they just don't have that portion of the personality that wants to get in another person's face and tell them to step up or tell them how to do their job. And just, you know, I'm not going to cast aspersions on anyone where it's not there. But if you're missing that, then somebody's got to go to somebody and say, look, you're the captain now. Like, and if that's Pavel Buka, if that's even Kevin Kelsey, I don't care who it is, but like somebody needs to be there and someone needs to be deputized into, we need you to do more with this.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't help that refs seem to completely disrespect Yedlin's captain status.
Yeah.
Whenever he's captain.
It's bizarre, right? Like, can we talk about this? That like there's something bizarre going on with how disrespected DeAndre Yedlin is, even with the body language of officials. I've seen Lucho get his, 10 cents in, and the refs still pay him more mind than they do DeAndre Yedlin. It's bizarre.
The treatment from the referee towards Yedlin was one thing, and then like the not sanctioning Suarez's consistent like nagging and screaming and shoving and standing over of Yedlin during the game, threw him into the advertising boards and then stood over him. We saw the entire MLS media ecosystem demand Alvis
Powell's head.
Yeah. Be given 18 red cards for that. Suarez did it in some ways worse, in some ways not as worse, I'll admit. But yeah, like nothing. Not a single thing came of that. It's just insane how Yedlin is being treated, and like kind of has to factor in, I think, unfairly, but like he can't keep being captain if that's how this is going to be treated. Like
yeah, I mean, I know we didn't spend a lot of time on the game, and I don't really want to, but
yeah.
The one frustrating thing that I do want to point out, and I don't consider it outcome determinative, was the officiating was embarrassing, and not like just like during play, but you know, the stuff that Suarez was allowed to get away with,
Mass
giving
confrontation at halftime with nothing whatsoever.
Giving Lucho that yellow card for like just kind of like
Being
running
fouled
into a guy, right? Like there was a collision, but like there's nothing in that you would consider a foul. There was not persistent infringement. There wasn't, intent. There wasn't excessive force. It wasn't stopping a promising attack. Like there was nothing that you would give him a yellow card for there. But Suarez and other Miami players were consistently allowed to time waste during stoppages by like knocking the ball away and stuff, which again, something we're told repeatedly is always a card.
Yeah.
The touching the ref in the mass confrontation, and right down to like fucking when Redondo subbed off, he wasn't required to go out at the he was on the opposite end of the field from the bench. He wasn't required to go off at the closest point. They let him run all the way across the field and didn't card him for time wasting. And like how many I see every game players get yelled at by the center official to, just go off, at the closest spot, which is
right.
What the rule says, right? It's just
That's
like none of
rule,
these things that are rules for everybody else seem to apply to Miami. And that's even with them getting a guy ejected from the game. Like they should have had multiple guys ejected from the game.
Yeah. But that mass confrontation, according to what got Lucho Acosta suspended last year or 2 years ago, 2 years ago,
but he got suspended 3 games.
Touching a referee suspended 3 games. It should have. They might have had to abandon the match. They should have had 4 guys sent off for surrounding the referee, touching the referee, and not just like touching him like innocently. Like they're getting his attention by touching him. Like it's a thing. That's what Acosta did. Immediately got him the suspension.
I also saw the ref grab Acosta at one point, and I was like, "This doesn't go both ways."
Does Acosta get to fine him? How does this work? Cheeto also got a yellow card for Suarez flopping against him, which was great. I really enjoyed that.
So did Robinson.
Yeah.
Got fouled by Suarez in a foul that 1 should have itself been a yellow card, and 2 he should have gotten a yellow card for dissent and theatrics for how he reacted to it.
Yes.
And then like basically the next play, Miles got a yellow for a much softer play on Suarez.
Yeah. Dotto touched Busquets in the face. That was a foul. Later on, multiple FCC players get smacked in the face. It's nothing. So what
else is new?
Yeah. Classic. So yeah, all of that was very frustrating. Yeah, not for nothing, and this is heartbreaking for both. On that second goal, Cheeto deflects it. I feel like if he doesn't deflect it, Roman has it, but he does deflect it.
It does look that way on the replay.
It's killer. It's killer.
But also, if he gets just slightly more of the ball, it's a great block. It goes out of bounds.
I don't fault him for making the play.
He deflected it into the... the only spot of the goal where it could have possibly gone in.
When was the last time we had a deflected goal going? It feels like it's last year. Like, when was the last time we kicked a ball and it didn't get deflected out of bounds? Like, we have all these shots blocked. I can't remember the last time that they kicked a ball and the deflection beat the keeper for a goal for us. It just happens to us.
Barriel's PostCast nominee?
Like, that might be the last goddamn time.
Man. Was Suarez offside in the build-up?
His teeth might have been.
He looked it in real time on the replay. I think he's probably slightly on. Right. I would like to see some Jonah lines, but I was disappointed but assuaged by the replay when I saw it. Yeah, it's just killer because you want Cheeto to make that play. Like, he didn't do anything wrong, but it just it screwed both of them.
But what I do love about it was in that moment he has never seen more Matt Miazga like, because that's very much a Matt Miazga play where it's an incredible defensive play that just bad luck occurs on. Like, Matt Miazga is another person where it's like calamity factor very high. that also
Right.
goes along with defensive skill incredibly high.
Another point about this game. I was mentioning before we recorded, I wanted to do an article called Spin Zone where I try to turn everything that happened in the game into a positive. Miami recorded their lowest XG of the season.
I don't care.
Chief, how does that make you feel?
I don't care. Number one, they scored 2 fucking goals. Like, you can't tell me their XG was 0.39. You are lying. Like, I saw 2 goals go in. I don't care. Like,
yeah.
I like you're lying to me if you tell me that Cincinnati's XG was higher than 1. Like, they had virtually no threatening chances. At no point did I feel like they were going to score a goal. The closest they came to scoring a goal was some scrum that I was convinced a whistle had blown on some way, where like all of a sudden somebody emerges out of it with a soccer ball and an empty net and no goal happens. But like there was nothing. Like, I don't take any solace.
I'll tell you about half the time I hear somebody talk about the XG. If it's a game that I've seen, they start sounding to me like Rudy Giuliani screaming about like people shredding ballots in Georgia. Like, I'm like, okay, man.
Sure.
Whatever you say.
I'm sure that's what's happening.
It should all come on 4 Seasons Total Landscaping letterhead when the XG report is issued.
I mean, if you watched that team, and I'll be honest, they should have had multiple goals.
Yes.
Except they're just not very good right now. FC Cincinnati.
No.
There was that one where they had the wide open goal.
Yeah. Right, but like that was like where it was like little kid soccer. There was 6 people around the ball.
We're just not very good.
Kelsey has an amazing flick on that is equaled with a very, very good save by Callender.
It was right at him.
And
like, he couldn't have flicked it more directly at Drake Callender.
That's such a hard move, though.
There was another one where if Kubo locates the ball, it's a pretty surefire goal.
Yeah.
It just goes kind of impotently past him.
Impotently past him. That's the season to FC Cincinnati, just going impotently past us right now.
I mean, there was that, maybe this was also the one with the wide open goal, but there's that one that like Martinez made that great kind of sliding save of the ball.
It was the same play. It was the same one with the open goal. Yeah, and it was
So
was fine. Like there was nobody there that was there to like slam the ball in. That wasn't happening.
But
like
there were several situations where if it had been happening against FC Cincinnati, the other team would have scored.
Oh, absolutely.
They're just not. It's just.
Ugh.
The team is less than the sum of its parts. August 25th, 2024. That does not mean it's always going to be that way.
Right.
It just is.
I don't want to talk more about the game unless somebody else has something, I guess. But is there anything else about this team that we can identify as an issue? I know many people are going to say Roman Celentano as an issue, which I do think is funny because this was probably one of his better games in the last handful of games.
I'll say this about Roman. It's. So, like before this, we talked about how I said that, we could go back and just go through all the stuff we said at the close of the window and just harp on like how right we were, but it would be entirely useless thing to do. If you want to talk about Roman being an issue, you can do that. But what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Like, what's it going to change? Like this,
Evan Loro, it's your moment,
right? Like, it's unless you think that Evan or Walters is gonna come in the rest of the year and change something. You just have to hope. Roman's who we think he is, and not necessarily what he may have looked like a couple games in the middle of the summer.
Yeah. Roman's problem right now isn't his shot stopping. Roman's problem is it's an entire problem with this team right now. And I don't know when this got bad, but it's just, I've started to notice it. Maybe just because I'm in a foul mood watching this team and everything makes me mad. So I am open to being called out on this. So please, either one of you call me out on this.
Ooh,
This team has all of a sudden developed a problem building out of the back. And part of that has been the ball moves really slowly on the buildup. There's not a lot of passes made with authority. There's not a lot of quick decisions. There's been a couple of passes during this stretch of bad play where Roman has made them where you're wincing as he makes the pass because it's moving so slowly that it's leading to a situation where you're either worried the ball is going to be intercepted or it moves so slowly that it gives the defense time to react and the defender is man up on the ball as soon as it's being received. And at least one of these goals last night, I think the second one, was because of a mistake pass in the buildup by Obi.
Yeah, terrible pass.
And
it's an awful pass.
Great lead ball to spark an attack.
Yeah. But like the problem is that like this team, it's just emblematic of all things not working on this team is that the buildup from the back is so slow and so erratic that they aren't getting the opportunity or generating the opportunity to do these quick passes, release someone into space, and create situations that make a defense uncomfortable because they're backpedaling and attempting to locate men as the attack moves forward. It takes so much time to get up into the attacking third that every time we did it, Miami had a chance to set its defense, and then you're playing against a 8 and 9 man box. You just can't win that way. This team, when this team has been at its best offensively, has been when it's moving the ball and when it's running and when it's keeping teams in motion. Even last year, this team was at its best when it was moving the ball quickly and it wasn't stagnating or taking forever to build up into the offensive third. And so if there's a point of criticism for Roman, it's a point of criticism for the entire back line right now. It's just that there is too much tentative play in the back line and in the defensive midfield with getting the ball upfield and moving into the attacking third. And I don't know how you fix that right now. Other than to say, watch film from earlier in this year and just do that.
You gotta get Jurgen Klinsmann over and just yell like courage at everybody in a German accent.
Maybe that would help. Whatever's happening now isn't working. So, yeah, that is the strangest thing, though. That like how different this team is from what it looked like against the last time it played Miami. I think it makes a perfect foil for like maybe home field advantage is that important in MLS that at home we beat them 6-1 and on the road we lose 2-0.
And then this was a team we were talking about being better on the road than it is at home. So I don't even know what the hell to think at this point.
Right.
I will say this, that this is all academic unless Wilfred Nancy falls in a manhole or is kidnapped over to Europe, just because the coaching gap now at this point is a chasm between these two teams.
If the difference in Columbus is purely coaching, because like, yes, they have a good roster, but they don't have a roster that like screams like Miami's roster does, or even LAFC's roster does.
They don't
have all the more reason. More reason that coaching is the answer.
Well, I'm just saying, like, Manchester United needs to be signing him. Like,
do they have a better roster than we do?
I don't know.
Do they?
I mean, I would say yes, just solely on the fact that they've got Cucho and Diego Rossi. They've got two guys that are offensive threats, and famously, you have to score goals to win games. They have two players that score goals. We have none currently that are healthy.
But let's say we had signed Sargent. Like, they're probably still the favorites if we play on a neutral field. Like, that's like Nancy. If the difference is him, maybe their roster is severely underrated, and 5 years from now, all of these guys are playing for Super League teams, and we're stunned that they ever played in Columbus at the same time. But like, Nancy needs to be coaching at the extreme highest levels. He's the next man up at Manchester United. He needs to be taking over PSG. Something more important for him
If
than
he
being
was
wasted.
coaching not in America, he probably already would have been.
That's-
No, but this league, no one from this league has succeeded over in Europe long term. And
I mean,
so,
you got
like at
guys
some point, someone
starting-
will. I think he might be the person, but like, he's so fucking good, and it's really, really annoying that he coaches 90 minutes to the north.
They started their backup goalkeeper in the final today. Schulte was on the bench. But like Rudy Camacho, Malty Amundsen, Sean Zawadzki, Max Arfson, like
even
been
Jason
good.
Russell Rowe. Like,
yeah, these guys have been good. I mean, they've obviously been good players in Columbus, but they would not like. They were just like they're just guys.
yeah,
Yeah, how many of those guys would start right now for Cincinnati?
none of the guys Grayson just mentioned.
Yeah.
like I don't like. So obviously, like Cucho, Rossi, Christian Ramirez, Nagby.
Nagby would be a funny one. Like if we acquired him, everybody'd be like, well, you can't drop Buka.
Nagby and Obi next to each other would be kind of nice, wouldn't it?
Oh, it'd be amazing. Don't get me wrong. We thought about doing kind of the same thing with McKennie, and people were freaking out about that. So,
Play
it's
Buka at
funny.
defensive mid, please.
I really like Wilfred Nancy's coaching career at CF Montreal, Columbus Crew, and the MLS All-Stars. I'm really glad that Fatmov includes that as one of his stops in his coaching career.
So yeah, I mean, it could also be, you know, a perfect alignment between Nancy and Bezbachenko in profiles and styles. So like,
Right.
Bezbachenko was just incredible at like finding guys who fit exactly what
You have to
Nancy
hope that's the
envisioned
case.
from every role. I mean,
yeah.
You have to hope that's the case. And Bezbachenko took the
But they're
secret sauce
promoting
with him.
They're promoting a lot of guys from Columbus too. So it's not even like they're
right.
necessarily
some of these guys
targets.
were signed to Crew 2.
Yeah.
Like Mo Farsi, I think Arfson was signed to Crew 2.
Mm-hmm.
I would love. We've proven Pat Noonan can do one thing very well. I would love to see Pat Noonan do two things very well, and like have that second thing that this team can do to break itself out of this funk.
You know what the solution is? It's been Chekhov's gun.
The shield
for
formation, does
3
that
years.
exist?
No, the diamond midfield. It's been there the whole time. It's been there. Chief just pulled his headphones off. It's
so
been
sick
there
of
the
this.
whole time. It's been waiting.
I'll say that looking at Rossi and Hernandez together, it does make me wonder why people were so dismissive of the idea that we might want another attacker besides Lucho.
Well, yeah.
I don't think anyone was dismissive of that idea. I just think that
people were people.
I was dismissive of Weston McKinney. I wasn't dismissive
right.
of the idea.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying some of the people who called in were basically seemed to think that there was no point in trying to sign like a really good attacker in addition to Lucho.
I guess
Grayson,
we
I
should
was sitting here trying to remember what I said. I was, oh shit,
Yeah.
is that me?
I guess it would be a good. We should point out for this. We should touch on this briefly. Nicholas Giacchini makes his debut.
I kind of wanted to go the whole episode without mentioning him.
No. He's a deep. He is. I almost did that. Almost did that. He was the one of the acquisitions.
Yes.
We had wondered to what degree he would be available for this match or what his role would be.
Starting attacking midfielder. Why
Attacking
not?
midfield. We were all wrong. Who knew?
The Lucho backup.
Certainly a choice. You had a choice and you chose Giacchini as attacking mid, apparently.
Did he do anything?
He didn't do a damn thing.
I haven't
like,
seen
I'm not
any of
gonna
his
hold,
touches or anything.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not going to hold this against him.
Sure,
It's probably
It's
incredibly difficult to come in, especially in a role that you haven't played.
Right.
That you
in that starting lineup.
Yeah, in that starting lineup. The man hasn't played. I think he's played like 200 minutes of competitive soccer this year. He was not a fixture for Como down the stretch. This was his first actual minutes, I think, since April, maybe March even.
Kevin Kelsey-esque.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna hold anything that he did in this game against him. I'm just impressed that he got out there and gave a shift. What I will say is I very much hope that the next outing from Giacchini looks better than this outing from Giacchini.
So I think it's Joe Aquini.
Joe Aquini, sorry.
We talked about it. It's Joe
Aquini. Yeah, two first names. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, I view it as a positive development that he got on the field.
Yeah,
and that he played like significant quantity of minutes.
He didn't do anything bad.
No, he did nothing bad. He was kind of there, which maybe you can say is a positive, given how a lot of the people played in this game.
There are some very obvious negative moments for a lot of guys. So he is actually doing better than a handful of our regular starters.
But it was not, to put it this way, he did not have the debut that would lead one to believe, oh my God, this person is going to change quite literally everything about this team right here. I don't think he took a shot. If he took a shot, it was an unmemorable effort.
Yeah.
He came off the half, so I think he had like 45 minutes played. He was one of the halftime substitutions. So, it will be interesting to see how they deploy him in this upcoming Montreal game this weekend, which has suddenly become a very, very, very interesting game.
Nicholas Gioacchini took one shot with an XG value of 0.01. So
you got to start somewhere, I guess.
The smallest amount that they award a shot, I believe, is what that is. Not clear that there was a shot. I don't remember it.
It was on. It says it was on target.
Oh, okay. Look at that.
Yeah, the XG on target was 0.03.
Man.
Wow. Excuse me.
81%, 13 out of 16 accurate passing.
He's basically
he certainly played.
I do think it's hilarious. Again, I'm just going to keep harping on the team identity point. We bring in a guy who is a striker. He's been a striker most of his career, if not a winger, but a striker. And then we immediately make him the second attacking midfielder underneath a target striker. It's just weird. And I understand it's like not really all that different, because if they just showed the formation as having Dado be the sole 10 and him next to Kelsey, it'd be like, oh, neat. That's fun. But yeah, just like, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. Vibes bad.
I think that's it for this game and for this segment. Let's head on over to part 2. Let's mix things up a little bit. Okay, let's do that.
That's Kevin's code for he doesn't know where we're going in segment 2 yet. And we'll figure it out when we get there.
What? No, I have an idea though, but I want to discuss it with you guys after I snap my fingers here. Before we head on over to that next part of the episode, I do want to tell you about our friends over at Cincy Shirts, our dear, dear friends here at the PostCast. Believe it or not, our very first sponsor from way, way back when. And guess what? Not only are they good friends of ours, not only have they been doing FC Cincinnati gear from USL year 1, but these guys are also doing PostCast merch. That is right. We have designs up on the website right now. Search Cincy PostCast. You can find our gear on Cincy Shirts. There's also links in the description of this show. But if you don't like our stuff, and you know what, if you don't tell me about it, but that's fine. Okay, you can buy anything else off of the Cincy Shirts website or in store using promo code ThePostCincy. All one word, all caps. That will knock 10% off of your entire order. That works on Cincy PostCast shirts themselves. And you can check them out in person. They are in Oakley Hyde Park. They are in Fort Mitchell, and they are also in Loveland. You can print any shirt on demand. I know that from experience. I've been able to do it. Walk in there, ask them to make a design, any size shirt, any design. It's really, really cool setup to do it in person there in any of their 3 locations. So again, a huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this episode. And thank you, dear listener, for using that promo code. Again, the Post Cincy, all one word, all caps, 10% off your next order. All right, back to the episode. All right, we're back, and guess what? We got a game plan for this one. Part 2 here. We are going to answer a couple of Patreon questions. We're going to bust out an In the 11, Out of the 18, bring back some of the old vibes to just, shake things up a little bit, shake it off, and move on with our week. But Patreon questions. What are these? These are questions that come to us from the patrons on Patreon for a mere $2 a month. You can support us. It's not the best financial decision you'll have ever made, but it is certainly a financial decision you could make that we are appreciative of. So appreciate that. And appreciate Steve Haldeman asking, who is your pick of any living human to pull the sword for MLS Cup at TQL Stadium? I do like the caveat of living human, not human being, which feels awkward, but I like it. A living human. Chief, who is a living human you would nominate for drawing the sword?
I'm desperately curious to know what would happen if Donald Trump showed up and did it. When they make the announcement to pull the sword, former President Donald J. Trump, what does the stadium do in that moment? That would be just an all-time moment to just have a beer and just be, well, this is interesting. Especially if it was unannounced. Nobody had any idea it was coming. There were no protests. It was just whatever your reaction in that moment is, just lives forever. I just think that would be my real answer. Just be the dumbest shit ever.
Man.
God, there's you want to have someone that's got something that's like a Cincinnati history connection to it.
Yeah.
You're running out of people in Cincinnati that haven't pulled it yet. I still love the Joey Votto idea. We talked about that in the last episode. I really want Joey Votto to pull it. But if I can have any person in the world, I'm really limiting myself with Cincinnati people. So any person in the world. So long as they're
alive.
So long as they're alive. Shit, I don't know.
I've got one.
Ooh,
go, because I'm still thinking.
Quashawn Toller. Could you imagine the team has since signed, Bertarami or
I was going to say it only makes sense if we signed a superstar.
It's the man who delivered you the open designated player spot.
The man who knocked out the designated player spot for FC Cincinnati.
So good.
That would be really, really funny.
Man, I like it.
Also, it duly operates because I assume he's got a warrant out on him.
We can find him.
When they used to do those free Super Bowl giveaways to guys who owed child support,
dads.
So they could show up.
I'm glad you thought that too, because I was trying to think who's a wanted criminal that we don't know where they are, because that would be a funny answer, because now all of a sudden they're in the middle of a stadium with 25,000 people.
Kim Jong-un.
What? We got him.
We got him.
Run. Yeah, Vladimir Putin. We got him.
Love that for us. Okay. I got a real one. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
Damn, that'd be fun.
That would be electric.
And if not Taylor,
just
Kelsey
Taylor
brothers.
Just, I'm also okay with just Taylor too. I don't need
going
Travis
the other
around.
way. I'd go just the Kelsey
No, fuck
brothers.
them. I don't
They're the ones with the actual Cincinnati connection.
I know Taylor, America's sweetheart.
I think my answer, and this would be great because neither of you will know who this is, would get the kids going. I Show Speed, a Cincinnati
I'm aware.
streamer who is
Jumped
is a big
over
deal.
a car.
Maybe.
Allegedly.
But
And
yeah.
hey, I could send some stupid tweet. We can get him as a guest on the show. Who knows?
That's true.
I also know who this guy is because Jake
Okay.
Barford mentioned him on our show.
Okay.
And then I've since seen him on my For You tab on Twitter. And judging by his popularity, his I'll say it, inexplicable popularity. I'm still not quite sure what this gentleman's up to.
But I wish I was him because he was raking in the cash.
Right. If Chief sent one of those tweets out about this guy,
oh God,
Chief would be murdered.
Get canceled.
The podcast would be canceled. I don't know how exactly it would work, but we'd be done.
Trying to think who else.
He
Like,
seems high energy, so I think he'd probably be pretty good at it.
I'm trying to think, like, there's also people around town or people that are Cincinnatians that like probably would be fun to have coming back.
Ooh, like what about like Phil Donahue?
Phil Donahue would be great. George Clooney.
Oh, that was a joke where one of you guys supposed to remind me that Phil Donahue died like 2 days ago.
Oh shit! No, I didn't,
didn't
know
know.
that.
We'll never find out what's in Al Capone's glove compartment right now. Okay, how about all right, so if anyone's listening from the FC, please turn the podcast off as always.
Steve
the
Rowley?
boys from
sorry.
the boys from No Laying Up, Tron Carter and
yeah.
Big Randy. That's who we need to have pulling the sword.
That actually would make sense.
Steve Rowley, Jesus.
Again, I just need to know where he is.
Yeah. Hope.
No laying up's good. He's good. I was going to say who's the worst pick, and Trump might also be the worst pick. Oh, but I think actually the worst pick would be J.D. Vance at this moment. For wherever Trump is, Vance is doing worse.
I think, yeah. JD Vance would be the worst choice. And then tied for second.
No, like the aforementioned Kim Jong-un would be way worse.
No, the novelty of that would be amusing.
Kim Jong-un would be funny. Tied for second worst would be literally any other politician. I don't want
Alex Jones.
Like,
What's funny is that
Alex
like,
Jones would be funny.
Vance is like
Plus
realistic.
It would bring him within like the personal jurisdiction of the state of Ohio. In case anybody wanted to sue him.
But yeah, Vance feels realistic because he'd be like, oh, sitting U.S. Senator. That makes some sense. They throw out first pitches.
And he's like, what am I supposed to do when I get to the sword? And you just say, whatever makes sense.
Whatever makes sense.
You got a couch up here for you to sit on and watch the game.
Yeah, those are good. Hey,
Yeah.
Steve, thanks for mixing up the vibes on the podcast. I've got another one. This is very self-indulgent, but they asked it, not me. Drew 0001 asks, what's the hardest thing about being a podcaster? And I like
having
this.
to tell your family that you do a podcast.
Right.
Every time somebody finds out you do a podcast, 100%.
Yeah, it's rough.
When I was in Europe, I was talking to people who were like student organizers during the fall of the Iron Curtain in the 80s. I talked to this woman who was talking about when she was 6 years old. Russia was invading their country, and she and her brothers went to like rip up, like they drove out to like rip up street sides to like make it hard for the like pull out street signs to make it hard for like people coming through to like navigate through the city, although I'm sure they had maps. But it's like really. But I just think about that, and I'm like,
doing a podcast.
Yeah, I have season tickets to the MLS team.
I do a show twice a week. I ignore my family to do this.
Yeah, I was gonna say the time commitment, other than the social
I grew up
stigma,
with all of the freedom, the most freedom, like really one of the freest people to ever live in the history of the United States of America.
Maybe too free, actually. Now that I think about it,
right? Maybe I should have had my choice constrained just a little bit. Maybe it's just some guiding posts. Some bumpers.
There should be a microphone shortage, just so only so many people can do a podcast. Oh, man.
The answer that Kevin won't give, the hardest part of having a podcast, is that Kevin has to edit this thing, that Grayson and I dip off the recording and Kevin is left editing the entire thing. That's the real hardest part of this.
Love the editing. That's why I don't do that good of a job.
Don't do that much of it.
We make it work, okay? I like to think we put out a adequate product, and that's all I can ask for.
The MVP, the minimum viable product.
Yes, exactly. No, appreciate the questions. We still got a couple more for the month of August, but I'm going to save a couple of these. There's one in particular that I'm going to save. I think it'll be good for midweek. And that leads us to, gentlemen, finally, again, to switch things up. In the 11, out of the 18, Chief, why don't you lead us off? Either way you want to go with it, in the 11 or out of your 18.
In my 11 this week is streaming services. For two reasons. Number one is the recent revelation that Disney Plus contains in its terms of service a binding arbitration clause that Disney attempted to enforce over every aspect of your interactions with Disney, including but not limited to being killed by Walt Disney at an amusement park. So allegedly, when you signed up for Disney Plus, you clicked some sort of an agreement, the part that we don't read. And that contained within it a provision that Disney was claiming allows them to avoid all liability for anything, not just, my streaming service wasn't working, or, my kids watched something.
Sweet contract.
Right. So that their terms of service covered everything, not just your issue with the streaming service. So this man was Disney's lawyers were arguing that the terms of service prevented them from suing Disney over his wife's wrongful death when she was, I believe, overserved or served allergen.
Yes.
She was promised allergen-free food at Raglan Road. Raglan Road, incredible spot in Disney Springs. I got very inebriated there when I went down to see Chelsea play. And so when they served her food that contained an allergen, they claimed because he had signed up for Disney Plus, they had no liability over that. So that's
He'd signed up for a trial like years ago. I don't even think he was an active subscriber. It's so funny.
The other reason I've got subscription streaming services in my 11 is that I don't know if you guys saw this. Chick-fil-A is apparently moving aggressively into the entertainment space with plans to launch a slate of originals for its own streaming service. This was according to Deadline, which is an actual industry magazine. So I don't know if you were looking forward and thinking that the thing missing from my TV as I scroll through all my apps is a streaming TV service provided by a fundamentalist Christian chicken sandwich organization. But apparently that's where we're going. And if you thought the Apple TV deal was bad for MLS, folks, it could have gotten a lot worse, apparently. What the fuck is going to be on a Chick-fil-A streaming service?
I just sort of assume the CEO has like a cryptocurrency problem and they need to create something as some massive money dump, tax write-off, embezzlement scheme here. This feels like a plan to do something else. There's
or it's
no
just
way.
It's one of those things where you need to say something to your investors about what you are doing. And your basic choices in modern society now is that to either say, we're getting involved in AI,
yep,
we're launching a streaming service, or making the following statement, we're actually a software company that happens to do blank.
Right.
Like, we're not a fried chicken restaurant. We're a software company that makes fried chicken. Any one of those things can get the investors off your ass for a quarter. So I assume they'd already done 1 and 2, and the only thing left was streaming content.
It's really funny, too, that they don't even have TVs in their restaurant. So, like, are they going to add TVs? Can I watch Chick-fil-A TV and Chick-fil-A? Very weird.
It would be really funny if the next announcement was, and they're making a very aggressive push for the media rights to the SEC.
Well, the CW has ACC, so maybe we aren't far off from like the Mac being on Chick-fil-A TV.
Like the USL goes to Chick-fil-A TV. You imagine the boycotts from all like the Hardo supporters groups, like the Louisville fans melted down. The Coopers melted down because Chick-fil-A was a sponsor of the team.
Yeah.
And they had like fan boycotts. And I think at least one person dropped all his merch off somewhere because I can't support this team any longer. Can you imagine if a soccer league went like, we're having our games streamed only on Chick-fil-A? The service doesn't work on Sunday, so we're guaranteed that only Saturday matches are being played.
Does the streaming service not work on Sunday? Oh. Man, that'd be rough.
Or does it show church services?
I would actually be very funny that you could get a live feed of any Chick-fil-A kitchen in the country.
Might actually, like, what if it was like one of those things? Did you remember back in the day when you used to fly on airplanes and like they one movie was playing on the airplane? I'm dating myself now.
That's good.
One movie was playing on the airplane, but if you plugged the headset in to listen to the movie, there was also a channel you could listen to where it would have like the chatter between the pilot and the air traffic controller.
That's good. Yeah.
So like, is there a channel where it's like you can pick your local Chick-fil-A and listen to the audio going back and forth? Is it like, may I serve you? And then just listen to orders going through over and over again.
Just the third party tapping into the drive-through orders.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a little background noise while you're cranking out some reports for the boss. It's like, what are you doing? Oh, I can't do this right now. They're about to switch from breakfast to lunch. And I love the angry people when they're 2 minutes late and they tell them breakfast is stop serving. Just the disappointment in your voice when you were too late getting there.
I think this works. Grayson, do you have anything to put into your 11?
Yeah. My in the 11 is sticking it to the haters.
Ooh.
Even when the haters don't exist.
Okay.
Have you heard about this movie Megalopolis?
Oh, yeah.
It's Francis Ford Coppola's latest epic.
So Francis Ford Coppola has spent years putting this movie together. He sold off part of Coppola Vineyards or winery or something to make this movie. It's got an all-star cast. It's been at all the film festivals. He could not find a distributor for it for the longest time. I think he ended up having to also front distribution costs. I don't know exactly what arrangement he came to, but when the movie was going around the festivals, people were extremely hard on it. At least anonymous people willing to talk to like the Hollywood Reporter, who were like various studio executives and whatever.
Yeah.
So Coppola puts out a trailer this week for Megalopolis, and the full first half of the trailer are quotes from critics who said bad things about Coppola movies over the last 50 years, right? It's about, quotes from critics slamming The Godfather and slamming Apocalypse Now. And I don't think they included any of the clips of critics slamming Jack. But and then it turns out all of the quotes were AI generated.
Cool.
Like they weren't not a.
You could tell they were AI generated because they all had too many fingers.
Yeah. So they had this idea for this marketing campaign about a movie that a lot of people have been slamming, to go back and talk about people saying similarly nasty things about Coppola movies that have become classics, but none of the quotes they used were real.
Like,
which he's a filmmaker. He's used to making up stories.
yeah, is the trailer not just another story? I think it's fair game. As long as he's not attributing them to like a real person and they're just sort of like left vague or something like that. I think that's fair.
We should do that for our podcast. We should release. Well, I mean, you wouldn't need to work hard to find negative reviews for this show, but drop a couple of AI reviews. Why would anyone listen to this?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, it's a thing they always advocated for all the pickup artists. But you got to neg in order to get attention.
Like we could also
neg ourselves.
We could also create a couple of like if we need content in the future, we can do some fake AI generated, just like ridiculous takes to respond to.
Ooh, like Lucio was being shopped in the window.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
Sorry.
Because, I'm not, I think there's enough to talk about without making stuff up.
No, I think you could become a pretty successful like sports columnist by making up readers, and
it would be crazy if it turned out that Jason Williams was writing letters to himself this entire time.
Or even worse, if somebody was just writing AI letters to Jason Williams and he thought that he had all this fan mail. It was just one guy with an AI account.
Somebody's just generating like he doesn't.
It's like his neighbor growing up who's like, well, I feel like you were always like a lonely kid. And
you needed a friend.
Just wanted to encourage you a little bit.
Kevin, what's in your 11 this week?
Man, these were both very good. Mine's way more self-serving. I have to brag about my daughter for a second. She scored her first goal as a little soccer player. It was very good.
Is she a forward? Can we sign her to FC Cincinnati immediately?
There's something to be said for that. She was she's just turned 7 years old, so she's playing on like
just got to see the ball go in the net.
Exactly. Yeah. Little developmental league thing. But she, my favorite part though, was that she described to me her thought process through it, explained why she did things. Everything made sense. It was very smart heads up play by her. Made me a very proud father while I was baking in the sun. It is very clear that like I am a first generation soccer dad, and I'm seeing other people that have brought like pop-up tents and like foldable chairs that rock, and they've got coolers and things. And I had one chair.
Yeah, no, you gotta, if your kids are gonna be playing sports, you gotta up your dad game significantly. You gotta have the full tailgate setup going. You gotta have the chairs, the shade. Yeah. You gotta have the big thing my one coworker was very excited to reveal was he had ordered one of those big metal tumblers that has like that fits in the cup holder that he can mix booze and soda with while he's watching his kids do sports. Got to get one of those.
I was looking at like a golf umbrella. I was like, oh damn, that's really smart. I really like that.
Go right for the pop-up canopy. Like you will never look back in your life. Once you become a pop-up canopy guy, the easy up, life-changing.
Easy up's the way to go.
They have the little ones too, where it's like personal. It's just you and the wife can sit underneath it. It's great.
There's one that I did see online that is very much personal. It barely fits a camping folding chair. I was just thinking, like, what is this for? What you
really need to do is you need to commit to the lifestyle and go full Aziz Ansari in Parks and Rec when they do the camping episode, the Tom Haverford, where he's ordered everything from the Sharper Image, and he's got like running off a car battery. He's got like a TV. He's got like an ice machine, DJ Roomba on the floor. Like just really trick it out for a U7 game.
I really like that idea a lot. A show with like lights. I'll have a little pop-up trailer with me instead.
Yeah, like a boombox going. Like the game is secondary. It's just I'm here to party.
Right.
Great job, dear. Keep going. You saved me.
Whatever. I'm going to be serving drinks all afternoon, folks.
Who needs one? Who needs one? Right here.
So that's in my 11. Chief, take us out of the 18.
Out of the 18 this week is Taco Bell. And this brings me yeah, I know. It brings me no joy. To learn that there was a poll or a thing done, a research done about Taco Bell franchises across the United States. And it turns out that the second worst Taco Bell in all of America is located right here in Cincinnati. Number 2 worst, 1810 East Seymour Avenue. The weighted review score that it received was negative 5.51. It was only bested by the Taco Bell on Saxon Boulevard in Deltona, Florida, which should give you an idea of where the competition was. Representative reviews cited, LOL, this place just opened. It's my first time here, and I ordered 2 very small items. Was told to pull around and wait, and they'll bring it out. When I pull around, I realize there's about 10 other cars waiting too. Barely any spots to pull into to wait on my food. Took about 10 minutes to get my stuff. The ladies working seemed very frustrated and upset. They were cussing and yelling while I was paying at the window. Not a good experience. So sadly, we have our Taco Bell franchises here locally need to step up. Being rated the worst at something is bad because you're the worst. But you can always claim that there's a malicious campaign to ruin your reputation when you're the worst. When you're the second worst at something, that just probably means you suck on merit. And that's a tough scene right there. Also, I'm now obsessed and I need to know that I need these rankings for every major fast food and chain restaurant location. I want to know where to avoid when I'm not going to these places. But also, I want to know how many of these we have in the city. How many top 5 worst locations do we have in Cincinnati? Are we overrepresented or underrepresented? Need to know these things now.
That's really good. Chief, your point about being the second worst reminded me of my favorite Wikipedia article of all time. It's called Thank God for Mississippi. This is a real Wikipedia article, and it's an adage used in the United States when discussing the ranks of U.S. states, because Mississippi is always dead last in things such as obesity, overall health, poverty, life expectancy, and other quality of life criteria. So we would have been worse, but thank God for Mississippi. They are there instead. And then it's good.
If you want to know where the best Taco Bells in the world are, it's in Pacifica, California is number 1. In Brownsville, Texas, number 2. In Harlingen, Texas, number 3. Union Center, New Jersey on John F. Kennedy Boulevard, weighing in number 4. And then in McAllen, Texas, number 5. So apparently Texas really knows how to do Taco Bell well. Great state for Mexican food. It carries over into possibly Mexican food, it turns out.
Mexican-inspired cuisine. Taco Bell never claims to be Mexican.
Mexican-ish.
Grayson, take us out of your 18.
So this one has a little bit of explanation behind it. But I will say the novelization for the film Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
Classic piece of literature.
Is that what's going out of the 18?
That's what's going out of the 18.
Okay.
So somebody, this is not a political thing. Okay. But somebody sent me a video from like 4 years ago of like Tim Waltz and his family putting out a video about like a book club, and they're all talking about what they were reading.
Okay. And
his son, who I don't know, probably like middle schooler at the time, was reading the novelization for Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
To be clear, a perfectly plausible thing and fine thing for a, middle schooler to be reading. Okay.
I read many Star Wars books when I was in high school.
So I'm not.
Ladies loved it.
But the website that the video was on had comments, and in the comments it was comment after comment talking about how great the novelization for Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith was, and how it's like the best. Everyone's saying like, oh, this is the best Star Wars book that was ever written. It's the best thing the expanded universe ever produced. Some guy was like, I'm a English teacher and I think this is a great work of fiction just in and of itself, regardless of it being a Star Wars book. And no. I don't care how good it is. It shouldn't be. Like this should not. The novelization of a thoroughly mediocre film,
sir.
Whoa.
It shouldn't be better than the film. Right? Like it shouldn't be. Like
well, I mean, George Lucas didn't direct the book, so it could easily be better than the film.
You shouldn't be throwing in a bunch of stuff that's not in the movie. And then if that's what made it better. And like, second of all, if somebody's capable of writing a great novel, we need to get them writing something else. Like we can't take, I don't know, Paul Thomas Anderson and say, I need you to direct the next Fantastic Four movie.
Be great.
Like,
be weird, but it'd be great.
If you found an extremely talented writer, they should at least be writing their own original Star Wars book.
May I offer you something that may change your mind on this?
Sure. It won't.
Sure. It will. It may actually. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, George Lucas was criticized heavily for how poor the scripting was for episode 1 and 2. So he hired a ghostwriter to help him on episode 3.
I know it was Tom Stoppard.
Yeah.
One, I don't believe Tom Stoppard spent more than 15 minutes polishing up that dialogue. You compare the dialogue he wrote for the other thing he kind of famously ghost wrote was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which has some bangers in there. You know, like where he's like
belongs in a museum. So do you.
He's like, you know, the I just remembered my Charlemagne. Like, let my armies be the rocks and the birds in the air,
and the birds in the sky,
whatever it is. But that was like the Last Crusade dialogue was like good. Revenge of the Sith dialogue was like, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Dude, that entire speech by Anakin is a banger. Your new empire?
And also, like, I don't know, like, he also, whatever. I'm not going to begrudge Tom Stoppard getting a check, but he did not put effort into it. Like, nobody's like looking at that and being like, yeah, this is right up there with rock and roll.
I see through the lies of the Jedi.
Grayson, I will offer just two things to you. One,
Michael Chabon wrote Spider-Man 2, and it's actually like pretty good.
I think you can have a writer who is good doing work like this, because it's not unlike how many, if not most, film directors start their careers by filming music videos. So it's kind of a similar-ish thing, sort of a corporate-y product that sort of launches them into something else. But I really like what Wikipedia says. You talk about adding things to the movie. How about this? While several sections of the plot are removed for pacing, we're not just adding things to the movies. We're taking chunks of the movie out.
So here's the thing, okay? And like the Paul Thomas Anderson doing like Fantastic Four is not a great example, but it's like if you had Paul Thomas Anderson do Fantastic Four, but you're like, you have no control over the editing and you can't make any changes to the script we hand you. Like that's a total waste of time.
Right.
So like having like somebody write a novelization of a movie, and it's not just like your intern. That's like a waste of a professional's time.
I also don't believe you about the banger lines. Like if it wasn't, so this is how democracy dies, to thunderous applause. Chef's kiss. No notes.
From my perspective, the Jedi are evil.
Jedi are evil.
Feels like the rough draft of like, I'm going to need dialogue that conveys this idea.
If you, so
No, it's
here's
like,
the
we need
here's
something
the,
that ties back into from a certain point of view.
here's what I would believe. I would believe that George Lucas told Tom Stoppard to write like 100 lines that he think might be in a Star Wars movie, and then George Lucas just sprinkled them around the script.
Ooh, this one will work.
I don't believe that he read the script and was like, "Oh, this goes here.
You can also
This is
tell
going to be really effective."
you can also tell how old all of us are because like apparently these like Revenge of the Sith is having a massive come up in terms of it's like how people remember it.
Again,
It's not bad, but it's not.
the
Cinema.
Godfather. it's not Megalopolis.
Right.
But what is?
I do like the Wikipedia again. I just have the Wikipedia page up. Best expanded universe work is it was voted the best expanded universe work by the Force.net users.
I mean,
Never been on
That's
that
who
website.
that's who I would trust. To be honest with you.
dude, if you weren't on the Force.net back in the early 2000s, I question your Star Wars fandom. So that's enough for me right there.
Look, I just need Wikipedia. All right, that's all I need.
Kevin, what's out of your 18? And then we'll close this out here.
Chief, very similar to yours. This is great. This is not pre-planned because obviously we came up with this on the fly. I'm putting not only Frisch's out of the 18, I'm putting Frisch's 6 feet under. Look, the enshittification of many great things in our society has gone on long enough. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news for so many people, but Frisch has died. There is something else wearing a Frisch's costume right now, masquerading as Frisch's in and around the greater Cincinnati area.
This is a great movie plot, too, by the way. So keep going on this.
Frisch's is dead. Big Boy has died. The food is horrific. The service is somehow worse. And I don't even necessarily blame the employees there. I blame I've been to 3 Frisch's in the last month and a half, 2 months. And in both places, I can only assume there are 3 paid employees working the restaurant. 1 waiter or waitress, 1 person working a kitchen, and 1 person who might be working the drive-thru, but actually might be listening to a Reds game on a radio headset behind what was the counter. I don't understand. I assume
This
it
is
has to do
Waffle
with
House's business model, and they make it work.
they were smaller, more condensed menus. Like Frisch's has a very large menu, too large of a menu, way larger than they can actually sustain. And it's so expensive. It's not cheap. It's not cheap diner. I mean, it is cheap diner food. It's just not cheap diner prices. It's dead. Private equity has successfully killed it. And I would recommend everybody that don't go to Frisch's because what it'll do is it will hurt your memories. If you had any sort of like nice family meal or gathering at one point in Frisch's, this will tarnish those memories. It's probably best to just leave those there. So, yeah.
Is there any potential mileage in doing like a horror film that's Big Boy themed?
Absolutely.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. I like this.
Some off-season.
The nod from Grayson right there made me very excited for what might be in the future here. All right.
We need Bob's Big Boy started in the 1920s, I want to say. He might be public domain soon. So I think you're fair game there.
Dude, in completely. Is the breakfast buffet, does that suck still? Does that suck?
Let me tell you about the breakfast buffet. That's what killed this for me. That was the final nail in the coffin. Everything else was dead, but I was like, they still got that breakfast buffet. I go to the one, again, I'm in Anderson, right? I go to the Beachmont location closest to me. I walk in and the lady says, our steam table hasn't worked in 2 weeks. We don't have the buffet. You can try Cherry Grove. Oh, okay. We'll go down to Cherry Grove, which is weirdly deserted. It's also a weird location. It's not clear how you get back there. We go in there and there's one guy making food and like he just kept making hash browns. So it was just a ton of hash browns. And my kids were promised pancakes. And I was like, hey man, you got any pancakes back there? He's like, yeah, I'll get to it eventually. I gotta pick what I make. I was looking at it like, I think we're good on hash browns, man.
This is the paperclip thing. How the world ends is that the machine just keeps making more paper clips and turns everything to paper clips. It's hash browns.
Do you feel bad at all? Like going to a second location to get the Frisch's breakfast buffet?
No.
So here's the problem.
I think about here's where here's where I'm coming from. Okay. If like a couple weeks ago, I went to a Chipotle and they were out of the fajita vegetables.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I'll wait. And I'm like letting people go past me, right? And I'm just standing in Chipotle, like waiting for the fajita vegetables. And I'm like, this is insane. It is absolutely insane to be like, no, they don't have the exact, like I need to wait for the really good stuff.
Right.
Like the whole point of it is to just be done with it.
Right.
Or like if you ever go to like McDonald's and it's taking like a little longer than usual,
yeah,
you're like, oh, now I'm just standing in a McDonald's.
Yeah, right.
People see me standing in a McDonald's.
Half the whole point of being here is that it's quick. Yes.
No,
this should be like a drug deal. Like, I don't want to be seen doing this.
The whole thing with McDonald's is everything you're doing is just trying to avoid being told to pull forward. Like it's a roulette game.
That's so true.
Just making sure that whatever you order doesn't require that we're going to need you to pull forward. That's like you've lost at McDonald's then at that point. You've crapped out.
I've had that conversation with my wife and be like, what do you think it was?
Whose was it? I need to know whose fault it was right here.
Your burger? Was it your burger?
I'm known to occasionally pop down to Walgreens downtown to buy some candy. And that's another thing where it's like, I want to be zipping in and out.
Yes.
If I like grab it and then there's two people in line, like oh shit. Now people see me standing here dressed like an adult, holding my little box of candy, waiting to pay for it.
On the idea of
everyone just sees me buying candy. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
On the issue of Chipotle, I know this makes me a bad person, but I don't care. In most situations in life, I will hold the door for someone else. If I'm going to a place where it's a get in line restaurant, I will not only attempt to walk faster than people who I see in the parking lot to beat them to the front. I'll hold the door back, but I'm not going to let them go forward because I'm not losing my spot in line to be courteous.
That's nice.
Like it's like the idea of letting someone get like even one spot ahead of me in line just makes me irrationally angry.
The only etiquette of the place like that really is like if there's like a group of like four of you and there's one person that gets there like slightly after you guys, just let the one person go.
No,
especially if it's the type of place where like you guys are going to have to stand there and like read the menu. Like,
yeah,
you ever go to a place and like people are like looking at the menu and like moving their mouth as they read like everything on it, as if they like have
like they need to sound it out loud.
They don't know how it works.
Oh, they got black beans here. Like, oh boy! All right.
That used to back in college. I used to work at a concession stand at a movie theater, and it always drove me fucking bananas how there would be a line of people waiting to get up to the register, and the person would get up to the register and not know what they wanted. It's like, what were you doing in the 15 minutes prior to here? The other thing that I think should be an offense that gets you smacked. I think more people should be smacked in public. Just like a smack. Just like, what were you thinking? Smack. Going to a place like Chipotle with an order form for 6 people.
Oh, that's
and having
bad.
to stand there as like they make the burrito And then we need to make another burrito. And we need to make another burrito. And just everyone in line behind you wants to smack you. One person should be elected. It's like, sir, I know you had to order for 6 people, but I have to do this. And then just like.
Yeah, it's rough. Oh,
or you
man.
can do the online ordering there, which the last time I did that at Chipotle, I received a bowl that just had rice and tomatoes.
You're welcome. Jeez.
Sure. Okay.
Some people don't even get that, Chief.
Sorry, Yuya. We're shitting on your place, but it's been not good lately.
Chief, I think we've successfully altered the vibes of my vibes, I will say.
I feel better. I feel better.
Good.
Yeah. Are we done here?
Chief, I think we're done. Let's kill this off.
All right.
We had a special request for how to end the episode.
We did, and in honor of tonight, fuck Columbus.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy PostCast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. I also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.